Here's why Eddard Stark confessed to treason before his execution. Welcome to the channel. Subscribe if you love House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, and deep dives into Westerosi lore. Let's begin. Few moments in Game of Thrones shook audiences as deeply as the death of Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North. Ned's public execution in King's Landing was not only shocking. It was the moment that shattered the illusion that honor alone could protect a man in the brutal world of Westeros. But before the sword fell, Ned Stark made a choice that still sparks debate among fans. Standing on the steps of the Great September of Baelor, surrounded by thousands of onlookers, he confessed to treason. He admitted to betraying King Joffrey and plotting against the Iron Throne, despite the fact that we, the audience, knew he was innocent. Why? Why would Ned Stark, a man defined by his honor and truth, tell a lie at the most crucial moment of his life? Why would the man who always chose principle over convenience suddenly abandon everything he stood for? The real answer is more complex than it seems. It wasn't simply about saving himself. It was about protecting his family, understanding the game he was trapped in, and making one final, heartbreaking choice that defined his legacy. In this video, we're going to explore the real reason Ned Stark confessed to treason, examining his values, his relationships, the political context, and the tragedy that made his decision inevitable. To understand Ned's decision, we must first understand who he was. Eddard Stark was the living embodiment of Northern honor. From his youth at Winterfell, he believed in the values of truth, justice, and loyalty. He executed deserters from the Knights' Watch himself, believing that the man who passes the sentence must swing the sword. He refused to play political games in King's Landing, even when it placed him at a disadvantage. He put truth before convenience, revealing the secret of Cersei's children despite knowing it would cause conflict. For Ned, honor was not negotiable. It was the foundation of his identity. He was not like the Lannisters or Littlefinger, who thrived on deceit and manipulation. He was not like Varys, who valued the realm over personal integrity. Ned was a Stark, his word was his bond. And yet, this very sense of honor often blinded him to the reality of the world around him. When Robert Baratheon died, the capital became a nest of vipers. Cersei moved quickly to secure the throne for Joffrey. Littlefinger betrayed Ned, turning the city watch against him. Stannis and Renly both had claims to the crown, creating civil war on the horizon. Ned, despite holding Roberts while naming him protector of the realm, was outmaneuvered. He was imprisoned in the Black Cells, accused of treason, and left at the mercy of his enemies. At this point, he had two choices: remain silent or speak the truth, maintaining his honor but likely facing execution, or confess to crimes he did not commit, preserving his life and buying time. The Ned Stark we had come to know seemed destined for the first choice: death before dishonor. So why did he choose the second? One key factor was Varys the Spider. While Ned languished in prison, Varys visited him. In their conversation, Varys laid the truth bare. Stannis was the rightful heir, but too rigid and too unlovable to win support. Renly had ambition, but not enough claim. The realm was already teetering on the brink of chaos, and Ned's execution would only spark civil war faster. Most importantly, Varys reminded Ned of his children. Sansa was still in the capital. Arya was missing, but likely still alive. If Ned chose to die with honor, he would not only sacrifice his own life, but also endanger his daughters. Varys told him plainly, confess, live, and take the black. From there, he could survive, and his family might be spared. This planted the seed of doubt. The next influence came from his daughter, Sansa Stark. Sansa begged Joffrey and Cersei for mercy on her father's behalf. She believed Joffrey's promises that if Ned confessed, he would be spared. This put Ned in an impossible position. He loved his daughters more than his own life, and seeing Sansa beg for him, innocent and naive, weighed heavily on his heart. If confessing meant protecting her, Ned would sacrifice his honor without hesitation. When Ned was brought to the September, the stage was set. Cersei and the council expected him to confess publicly, so they could send him to the wall and keep him out of the Game of Thrones permanently. The crowd expected blood. Sansa expected mercy. Ned stepped forward, broken, frail, and humbled. And he confessed. He declared himself a traitor, claimed he had conspired to take the throne, and swore loyalty to Joffrey. It was the greatest lie of his life. And yet, in that moment, it was also the greatest act of love. So why did Ned Stark confess? 1. To protect his family. Above all else, Ned confessed to save Sansa and Arya. He knew the Lannisters would use his death as leverage against his daughters. By confessing, he hoped to guarantee their safety. 2. To survive and take the Black. Ned believed Cersei's promise that he would be sent to the Wall. This would allow him to live and perhaps even reunite with Jon Snow at Castle Black. Though humiliating, it would give him a chance to serve with honor again in the Night's Watch. 3. To prevent civil war. A public confession would calm the realm. Instead of sparking immediate rebellion, it would buy time. Ned, always putting the realm before himself, chose peace over pride. 4. Because he learned too late. In that moment, Ned finally understood the game. Honor alone could not win in King's Landing. Lies, manipulation, and sacrifice were the currency of survival. His confession was his first and last attempt to play by those rules. Tragically, Ned's confession achieved none of these goals. Joffrey, arrogant and sadistic, defied both his mother and the council. Instead of sparing Ned, he ordered his execution. The crowd screamed. Sansa fainted. Arya was forced to watch in horror from the crowd. And as ice, the Stark family sword, fell, the lesson was complete. In the Game of Thrones, honor is weakness. Ned's sacrifice was in vain, but it defined the story. His death set the stage for the War of the Five Kings, for Robb Stark's rebellion, and ultimately for the downfall of House Stark. He lived by honor, but when faced with the choice between honor and family, he chose family. It was the one time in his life that he placed love above truth, and the world punished him for it. This is why Ned's death remains one of the most powerful moments in television and literature. It wasn't just shocking, it was thematically perfect. Ned Stark's story was always about the clash between honor and reality. In the end, he tried to compromise, and it cost him everything. For Sansa, it shattered her illusions of courtly romance and taught her the cruelty of power. For Arya, it fueled her journey of vengeance, shaping her into an assassin. For Robb, it ignited rebellion and the march of the North against the Iron Throne. For the realm, it proved that Joffrey was a dangerous and unstable king, undermining Lannister control. In a way, Ned's false confession became the spark that burned the realm. When Eddard Stark stood before the September of Baelor and confessed to treason, he made the hardest decision of his life. For a man who lived and breathed honor, speaking a lie was worse than death.